Hello and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the dis and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live on www.letgoradio.net and on Facebook Live, where I always say, you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it.
What's up, everybody? It's D to the J with the rollaway, and it's Wednesday at 2 p.m. yet again. Like to welcome everybody as you come in to My CP Does Not Define Me, that's Cerebral Palsy, episode number 43. I have a very special guest this afternoon, and we're going to bring her in just a moment. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. So as you come in, be sure to share the broadcast throughout the show. We're with you on www.letgoradio.net and on Facebook Live. So I'd like to thank everybody as you tune in. Hey, Cindy. Hey, Michael. Hey, Nikki. Be sure to leave a comment as you come in and let us know who you are. So I'm going to bring on to the stage right now Miss Andrea. And there she is. Hey, Miss Andrea, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for the invite.
You are quite welcome. Glad to have you. I've been wanting to do this show for a long time, and like I was telling you earlier, we've had most people from the Cerebral Palsy group on, so I'm happy to have you. So if you would just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do, what your disability is, how it affects you, that kind of thing, and we'll go from there if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, sure. I'm Andrea Bolinger, and I have spastic diplegia. That's my form of CP. It's considered more mild than the other four types. Mine only affects my bottom half, so my legs, pretty much. I use 2 canes for balance, and then then just keep going with it.
Okay.
So,
all right. So you said that your CP mainly affects your lower half, and you use 2 canes. Do you have to have the 2 canes to walk? Can you do anything without the 2? Are you able to stand at all without the 2?
oh yes, yeah. It's just a heck of a lot easier when I have the canes because it doesn't slow me down, and it's safer too.
Okay.
I don't use them all the time at home, but
now with the crutches or canes, like when I walk with my crutches, because I used to be able to, I haven't been on my crutches in a while, but I used to walk with crutches as well. I have to have mine kind of out in front of me. Mine are the loft strand crutches where you put it through the little cuff and hold on to the little handle. Are yours the same way? Do you have yours out in front as well?
Mine are kind of, I don't know. I don't really pay attention to, they're like at my side, but out to the front, I guess. I don't really, I take up a lot of space when I walk with them, I guess, but it's not, yeah. It's not.
Go
ahead.
No, you're fine. You were saying it's not.
I don't know. I don't think about it. So if you ask me how to use them, I can't explain to you how to use them. I just use them. I started using canes when I was 6 years old. So, and I remember the first time I ever used canes. Before that, I had a walker. So like you get to a point where you don't think about how you use them. You literally just go, you just walk.
Right.
So,
it becomes more muscle memory than anything else. It's kind of like, that's kind of like with martial arts. You do something for so long, and it just becomes second nature. Now, so let's go from like your childhood. Talk about who was your main supporters in your childhood when you were growing up?
Oh man. My family were big supporters.
Okay.
My teachers were big supporters. Yeah, like my parents were, like my mom was my advocate for everything, man. If anything was happening. She was on it.
Okay.
So, and I have 2 sisters. So, I grew up in
Older
a
or
very
younger?
loving. I'm actually the oldest, which
Okay.
throws people off. Everybody thinks I'm, in the middle or younger, but
Right.
I'm actually the oldest.
So you said your mom was kind of your supporter for everything. Talk a little bit about that. How was it? I guess my first big question to you: how was it growing up with CP? When you were younger, and how did your mom treat you? Where did Andrea come from? As far what made Andrea to do to.
Hmm, that's a good one. No, I was always taught that if, that can't wasn't in my vocabulary
Mhm.
and I can do anything. And if we can't do it a certain way, we'll figure out another way to do it. But you're going
Exactly.
to, there wasn't anything that I couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
If I needed help, they'd help me. But, I still to this day have a rough time asking for help just because I'm so independent. Like,
Yeah.
I like being independent.
Were you that
So
way from a very early age?
yeah, I would say so. And I also, my grandparents played a, major factor in that as well. I mean, I had, if I listed all the people that helped me get to this point, we'd be here for more than an hour. So, you know, I mean, I was lucky that I had a lot of support. I spent a lot of time with older adults. Like I actually got to hang out with my great grandparents when I was growing up, and my great aunts and uncles, my aunts and uncles. Like I I got to hang out with a lot of adults. Um,
Do you find
you
that
know,
you related better to the older generation? I mean, was it did you have problems relating to the younger generation?
I only had problems with the younger generation in school, like
Mhm.
when I was in school, because nobody really understood what CP was, and
Right.
nobody really explained it to anyone.
Mhm.
So that was the hard part for me, was the fact that like I was the only one in my like myself in my community.
Mhm.
So um yeah, that was the tricky part. I mean, I don't think I let it bother me too much when I was really little. Like I just
Right.
went about my day and didn't really, I talked to anybody, and I didn't mind. I'm a people person. I've been a people person since since day one.
Right.
Everybody jokes that I learned how to talk at 3 years old and haven't stopped yet. So, you know.
So like to go through that and how was the relationship between you and your mom growing up? Because I know and the reason why I asked that, I'll give you an example. Like with mine, my mom, she would help, but she wanted me to be as independent as possible, and she would push me to say, you can do that. Get your own shoes on. You can do that. Get your own shirt on.
Mhm.
I'd kind of go, but then I'd get through it and go, all right, mom, that she's going to make me do it anyway, so I might as well get it done. Was she kind of the same way with
Right.
you?
Yeah, and I had, I was lucky enough to get physical therapy through
Mhm.
school and
Mhm.
things like that. So I and OT as well, occupational therapy. So I had a lot of support, um, on that front as well. And plus I had
Right.
surgeries as a kid just to, make life a little easier, not to like, solve a million things, but just make life easier.
Right. Now the
But
surgeries for me, and see, that's the thing, because there's two questions I'm going to ask here. The first one, I
mhm.
noticed that every time I would have a surgery, I had to learn everything all over again, no matter how minor. Well, I don't want to say relearn everything, but no matter how minor the surgery was, if it was on my leg and I was in a cast for any period of time, I had to learn a different way to get dressed because I couldn't bend the same way or couldn't move the same way. I
Yep.
had physical therapy through school too. And I do thank God for that, because once that physical therapy stops, if you stop stretching, you mess yourself up big
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why my camera keeps freezing, but um yeah, I had to relearn it probably every time I had surgery, but I don't know, you don't get upset about it because you
Hmm.
knew that the surgery was meant to make life better and
Right.
easier.
Hmm.
Um so you knew it was something that you had to do. You know what I mean? It was something if you wanted to get stronger, you had to just do it.
Right.
Like,
To get to that next level.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. So you said you had physical and occupational therapy through school. I think you had OT too, right? You said you had OT as well.
Yes. Hmm.
How was that for you? That always irritated me. I hated getting therapy in school. Hated it.
Well, I just hated being pulled from class.
Me too.
I loved my physical therapist. I loved my occupational therapist, but I hated getting pulled from class because that it felt like it put a target on my back,
Exactly.
even though, you know what I mean? Like, but when you're a little kid, you can't explain that to people. You don't understand it. You just
You
go
know
with
what
it.
happens. You know what
Hmm.
happens and you deal with it. Exactly. Yeah.
And they don't explain it to the kids like they do now. Nowadays, if you have a little kid in a wheelchair, the teacher explains to everyone why the the kid is in the wheelchair and you move on. But I didn't
Well,
have that when I was in school. Nobody
hmm
said much.
yeah, I think that
So I feel like
again.
it would have made life easier if my class had understood.
Exactly. That's a great point. I think that people didn't have, as when we were growing up, because I grew up in 80, I was born in 81. So, back in that time, we didn't have the
Hmm.
information. Everything was new. And you were kind of, for me, it was oh my God, it's the alien from another planet that's in wow, that chair is big. And oh, we can push him into the wall. And the kind, so you get that whole, oh God, I really don't want
Hmm.
to die. What are we gonna? So there was a lot of misinformation, and people were afraid of what they didn't understand. And luckily, I was verbal enough that I could explain. I'm just like you. The only difference is I'm in a chair and I can't walk on my own. And people pretty much left it alone. I didn't
Right.
have a lot of kids to ask much more than that. But I think it is important now, very, very important now. Hey, Josh, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it, brother. Very important now to get that information out when the child is in the classroom and he or she is in a chair. Tell them why so they understand. The person is just like you and me. The person is normal. You can ask them questions. You can talk to them. Just make it as easy as possible of a transition.
Normalize it is what I like to say. Just make it,
Good word.
if we normalized it or um just if we addressed it once, then we should be good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's
I
nothing to
like
be
that.
ashamed or embarrassed about. And
Mm-hmm.
that was something that wasn't conveyed, I felt like, when we were in school.
Very, very well said. Very well said. It was there was an oddity to it when we were growing up.
Mhm.
It was not so much. I mean, there was a difference there, but it was also the odd man or odd woman out, and you felt kind of out of place.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I I was that's a Nikki. I understand that. Nikki said made fun or make fun. That happened to me a lot. Not necessarily when I was little, but as I got older, and you know people could understand. Oh, he's in a chair. He's gonna fall out of the chair, type of thing. It became a little bit of that, but I mean it. Luckily, I had pretty good people in school, and I had a lot of friends that wanted to help. So let me ask you this,
Yeah,
Andrea.
I
What
mean,
was your? Mhm. Go ahead.
um yeah, I mean, I had if I still say if I hadn't gone through certain events in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. So
Hmm.
even the hard days make me appreciate, the better days, because I truly know, I can truly find joy in it, is what,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
so even on my worst day, yeah, even on my worst day, um, I can find a reason for it later. I don't necessarily find the reason when I'm going through it, but I understand it, I understand it later on.
Right. Did you have a lot of help in school with like carrying lunch trays and carrying school books and stuff like that, or what was that like?
Um, hmm. When I was in elementary school, I don't really remember. I mean, I know I had an aide when I was like I think you still call them aides. I had an aide when I was in elementary school who would help um with books and things like that. When I
Mhm.
got to middle school and high school, I was able to get 2 sets of books. So I had one set of books for the classroom and one set of books at home. So that took the weight, the having to carry things off of my plate pretty much.
You know,
And I also, yeah,
it's
and
funny.
I was also able to leave class early so that I wouldn't have to worry about the crowds.
Right. Those two things that you just mentioned. It's so funny that you mentioned them because I had the same thing happen to me, but also to get the extra set of books. At first, the school was like, "Oh, we can't afford to give him an extra set of books," and my mom was like, "Okay, so here's what happens when he's rolling in his
Mm-hmm.
manual chair because those books you carry 7 books for 7 different subjects. You're talking about 40 pounds." By the time you get all those, you got 25 to 30 pounds of extra weight on your back. She said, when he flips over and busts his head wide open and I file a lawsuit, then we'll see what happens, won't we? Next day, I had an extra set of books waiting for me to take home.
Yep.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, you talked about the fight. We have to fight for everything, and it really, it's sad because it's like, with the IEPs and the paras and the aides, we got to fight for everything, whether it's leaving class early or having help with lunch trays or getting an extra set of books. You have to learn how to fight. When did you know that was something that you would have to do? Because you talked about your mom being your advocate for everything.
Mm, uh, Goodness, I couldn't tell you when. I've always known. I've always had. You know how we have life hacks now? Everybody's got a life hack for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like we grow up with um life hacks of our own, just because if we can't do it one way, we have to figure out another way to do it. So we have a plan A, B, C, and D,
Mm-hmm.
and we kind of go from there. That's kind of what it feels like. But I always um I was lucky enough that I could always communicate. See, communication was never my problem. Getting from
Mm-hmm.
place to place was my problem, but communication has never been my problem.
Exactly,
So
and
if I had,
that's.
you know,
I'm sorry. Go
so
ahead.
I
If
always
you have.
communicate. You're fine. I always communicated what I needed. I didn't necessarily stand up to bullying, like, but I mean, mm, I don't know. That was a tricky thing. But like I said, without those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am now. You know what I mean? Like, I
Mhm.
learned so much from all of it.
Were you bullied a lot in school?
Um, it depends on the age and the circumstance. Like, I feel like high school was really rough for me.
Mm-hmm.
But high school's rough on everybody. Like,
Yeah.
that's nothing new. Everybody's trying to figure out who they are, where they belong, and all that jazz.
And so kind of bridging from the, let's say, the middle school to the high school years. When did
Mhm.
and having CP going through high school is bad enough, but having CP, period, and people don't realize, a lot of people say, well, it doesn't get worse. It does if you don't take care of it. Um, when did you kind of come into your own of who you were? When did you figure out who
College.
you were? Mm-hmm. Okay.
College.
Talk
Absolutely.
talk a little bit about that.
So when I graduated from high school, I actually went down my last day of high school, I went down and signed up for college that same
Mm-hmm.
day. Like I went to campus and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And and so I became a senior and a freshman in the same day. And I went to community college first, and that was such a great experience for me. I loved every minute of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a bit of problem at community college. Um,
What did you
because
study?
I was with older individuals. I was with mature people who had families and who had been around disabilities, and they didn't have issues with it, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
then then once I graduated from the community college, I went down to the 4-year college, and then it was like being in high school again,
Okay.
with
Mm-hmm.
bullying and things like that at the beginning.
What
So,
did what did you study in community college?
so community college, I got all my prereqs done, and I actually minored in art. So I
Oh,
actually
wow.
enjoyed that a lot.
Okay.
So,
So how did so we talked a little bit about your art. Talk a little bit about that and what that does for you. It's kind of therapeutic for you, is it not?
yeah. Um, I don't know. Art, you don't have to think with it. You don't have to worry about where you are or what you're doing or who to impress. It's just, you just go with it. I don't know. It's peaceful, I guess, is the word I'm
Mhm.
looking for.
Got a comment here that says that's so true. Like when I had to take PE, I could not change for PE. I got a doctor's note not to take PE. Now I took PE, Michael, but the difference was I got the PE shirt and I would go in the back and change in the locker room and and get the PE shirt and and participate, but I didn't get opted out of it. So yeah, I did have a little bit of the issue with changing, but I was able to go in the back and actually change my shirt and participate in PE with that. Um, did you have an adaptive program in PE, Andrea, or what was physical education like for you?
I had an adaptive program in middle school, um, a little bit. I mean, I still got to be part of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't until college high school I got to sign up for weight training, conditioning, which I loved it. I was good at
Mm-hmm.
it and I enjoyed it
Awesome,
because
awesome.
that didn't stop me from anything. But I hated like dodgeball and all that other stuff that everybody has to participate in.
Mhm. Yeah.
I was a magnet for getting hit because
um,
I just can't catch things that are thrown at me.
yeah, I actually did the dodgeball thing. I kind of liked it because I was able to you move around on the floor and be the goalie at soccer and that kind of thing. So those kind of things never really bothered me. But I was a magnet for getting hit, though. I do understand that. That's everybody wanted to throw the ball at me, so I understand that. Now you talked about
And
your
not
art being
in a mean way. I mean, nobody was trying to be mean.
right, right. I can't say that nobody was trying to be mean in my class. We had some people that were pretty mean and wanted to take out the disabled kid. That's what they but then I would, run over them, with my chair after class. So I
Yeah.
kind of get them back in a certain way. Um, yeah, wanted to talk a little bit more about your art. Now you talked about, kind of the flow of it. You just pick it up and go with it. Did you get interested into painting or did you get interested in
Mhm.
drawing? What kind of art did you get into?
I pretty much took I took drawing and painting, art history. Um, I did, I liked sculpture. That was pretty fun.
Oh
The
wow.
sculpting class. So like we did pottery, and things like that. Like we never got to have to have like, models or anything, but to do pottery was pretty cool. And
That's one thing I've never gotten to do.
It's super relaxing.
That's one thing I've never gotten to do, but I would enjoy it. It always makes me think of that scene in Ghost where Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze are both doing the pot thing, and it's like, man, I just but I think it's beautiful to fire something on the kettle and all of that. Cindy said back in the 70s, they didn't know what to do with someone with a disability, so I just had to sit and watch everyone. I do want to talk about that. There were some of the instances where I did have to sit and watch, and here's my thing. I was very vocal when I had to sit and watch. I did not like sitting and watching. I wanted to participate in some way, somehow, and teachers knew it. And they realized that if they set me on the sidelines, they were going to have a problem because I was going to be very vocal about how I felt. Did you ever have any issues like that, Andrea?
I'm just looking at my pictures there we go. So, yeah, I sat back. I remember there was a playground that I got to help be part of in first grade where they helped build it. And then, so I got to help build it, but then I realized once it was built, I couldn't participate in a lot of it because it wasn't accessible. So I ended up having to sit on the sidelines with the teachers. I became really good friends with most of the teachers because, yeah, I think that's how I learned how to talk to so many different people because, when you're sitting on the sidelines, you learn how to talk.
Yeah, I mean, did it bother you though that you sat on the sidelines with that, or did you talk about how you felt, to your teachers?
I mean, as time went on, I always had friends that weren't necessarily in my classes, but I was always friends with. So like for me, a phone call was a big thing. Like I talked to people all the time on the phone because I lived 30 minutes from my elementary school and an hour from my high school. So,
wow.
So all my friends lived in town. Yeah. So I learned early how to talk on the phone, and this is before text messaging and all that.
So with all right, so through high school, you talked about. I
feel like if
go ahead.
No, I think I lost you. What'd you say?
No, I was saying, getting your art and all of this and going, taking as much art as you took, getting into high school, which you said was rough for you then. How did your art help you in high school versus middle school?
I don't know. I don't know. I just focused on. I just spent time with like the people who I felt comfortable around, like whether that was family or friends or like I didn't necessarily have the school experience growing up that I wanted, but I had a happy life. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't. I always had a safe place to come home to. So that helped me to deal with the stuff that sometimes was not fair.
Right.
So.
Okay. So Nikki asked, were you a social butterfly?
I mean, I definitely was. I feel like everybody knew who I was in school. Like, I was not afraid to talk to whatever group. Like, I would talk to anybody in school, whether it was the jocks or the nerds or whatever. I talked to everybody. I didn't just talk to one particular set of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and then in college, when I went away to the 4-year school, I majored in psychology. So, because I initially wanted to be a child psychologist when I got out of school. Like, that was my goal from middle school on. I wanted to be a child psychologist.
Okay, talking about that, do you feel like when you were talking to all kinds of people, do you feel like that kind of, bridged the gap for you as far as did that bridge some of the gap with your disability, and did more people want to talk to you because you talked to them?
Yeah. I've always been the one that no matter where I was, I smile at people because it kind of disarms them a little bit, and it makes them feel like, it makes them take that breath and be like, okay, yeah. But I'll tell you what, during this pandemic and having to wear a mask is driving me crazy because I can't smile at people.
Right.
Like a little kid, when they come up to me and I smile, they can't tell I'm smiling. So now they're more fearful because, so, but I always say hi to them anyway. Like, I always make sure I say hi to them.
So let me ask you this, talking about psychology, because that's always interested me. What made you decide that you wanted to go into psychology, and talk a little bit about that avenue? Did you pursue that, and what made you want to get into it?
I wanted to be involved in psychology because I wanted to understand human behavior. I wanted to understand why things, why the brain is a certain way, why people do certain things. I wanted to be a support system for the kid that didn't have support. You know what I mean? I wanted to be a success story for the kid that was like, is it always going to be like this? Because high school for me was awful. I hated it. If I wish that somebody had told me when I was in high school that life gets so much better after high school. Like, it's not the end of your life, it's the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, I wish that I had had that. And I wish that I would have been listened to by adults, by professional adults, more than I was. I feel like, they didn't give me the credit that I felt like I did. I felt like I deserved to be heard. But they just said, oh, it's part of your CP, or it's because of this XYZ, and I'm like, my CP has nothing to do with why I'm upset that I can't do this with my friend. Like, you know what I mean? It's
right.
It was
Do you feel like they downplayed
I had
it?
Yeah, I'll go with that. Like, yeah, it's like, or they would tell me they knew how I felt and they'd been there. I'm like, you've never been through this. Like, I just wanted to be a positive. I wanted to be a positive role model for a kid like me. You know what I mean? I think that's why I wanted to be a psychologist so much, was because I wanted to be, yeah.
So how many years of psychology did you take, and what kind of psychology did you take?
I took abnormal psychology. I love that class. That was so interesting to me. I took cognitive psychology. I took biology, and you have to take statistics. I hated statistics, but I mean, I love learning, and it all of it fascinated me. I loved being a student. I loved being in school. I loved going to school every day, talking to people. Like, I felt like I was on top of the world when I was in college.
So So how much of the psychology part, and because to tell you the truth, I was told that I should have been a psychologist because I understand people, but how much of it is understanding people's problem that they're suffering, and how much of it is, understanding the person themselves?
Well, you need empathy. I feel like to be a good psychologist, you need empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be able to compartmentalize, which I was never. I'm a good listener,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm easy to talk to. I get that all the time. But I really do think that you have to have a passion for it. You have to like feel it in your bones.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing with me. I'm also a caregiver, and being a caregiver, I absolutely love being a caregiver. But everybody's like, "How can you do that?" And it's because I focus on what people can still do. You know what I mean? I don't focus on what they can't do any longer.
Right.
So like
That's the that's
I focus on the positive aspect of it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's the outlook
Yeah.
that I wish a lot of people would have toward people with disabilities, because if you look at them as to see what they can do and see what they are instead of what they can't do and what they're not, you will understand them a lot better in who they are, and you're going to get a lot further with them because you're not treating them as if they're somebody that is an invalid, and I hate that.
Right. Right. And that's the thing that we need. There needs to be, yes, we're getting better with people being more receptive to people with disabilities,
Mm-hmm.
but it needs to get better. We still have a long way to go.
What do you think is a step in the right direction to get better for people with disabilities?
Um, to just be open to listen and to not let fear drive your impulses.
Wow,
Like I feel like
that's a good answer. Mm-hmm.
people judge first on appearance, and like they have a knee-jerk reaction, and then they can't hear what we're trying to say because they're still recovering from that knee-jerk reaction.
Right, right. That's
It's a
well put.
natural response.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a natural response to have, but it can't happen every time you see the same person. Like that's the tricky part.
Yeah, I think the knee jerk reaction, as far as I think everybody's going to have a little bit of that. Hey, Shayna, thank you for tuning in. Hey, Christina, thank you for tuning in. But I think open mindedness and realizing that just because people are different, it does not make them bad, or that they, just because they're different, it doesn't mean that they can't do something. And I think it's that closed mindedness that is crushing society right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're all in the same boat right now with COVID. Everybody's stuck. Everybody's tired. Everybody's ready for it to be over. Everybody's ready for a solution. But yeah.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, Andre, and I love how you just said everybody is ready for a solution, but the solution itself is part of the problem, and that's what I love about psychology. When you're dealing with people, each case is different. It's just like every disability is different. I think the psychology, the way a brain works, and the way a person's brain works, it makes them who they are, and how they communicate, and how they express themselves, and how they go through what they feel. Because you mentioned something earlier. A lot of your teachers would say, I understand what you're going through. See, I would turn around and go, okay, so you're in a chair. 15 hours a day and you can't use your legs either, but yet you're walking around. And then they look at me like, uh-oh. I think I overstepped the boundary. It's not that they overstepped the boundary. Don't say you understand what a person's going through unless you walked a mile in their shoes or rolled a mile in their chair, because you don't. And I think that is the biggest misconception in our disabled community, or in the disabled community, even people without disabilities. The first thing somebody said, Lord, let me tell you, that happened to me. I understand exactly what you're going through. I went through it last week. I broke my arm. Well, you know what? Your arm healed. This CP is not that way. I think people need to realize there's an entirely different spin on it when it comes to disability.
Right. Absolutely. It's this is not a temporary thing. Like everybody, yeah. I mean, it can get better, it can get worse, it can get there's so you have good days, you have bad days, yeah, but I don't know. I feel like it's given us having CP for myself has given me such an experience that I know I would not have gotten otherwise. Like I've met so many people I would have never met otherwise. I'm just grateful for the things that I can do and the people I've met and the places I've been to, and you know what I mean? I truly enjoy the life that I have. Before the pandemic, I would travel and do things. I miss traveling. But yeah, I don't know.
I agree with you.
I'm still here. I'm just
No, I want to say this. I agree with you to such a point right here, because there are very few people with disabilities that I've heard say, it's given me such a perspective, or it's given me such an option. I often get asked the question of, if there was a pill that would allow you to walk or change your CP, would you take it? And they're very surprised when my first answer is no, because my CP is part of who I am. It doesn't define me, but it defines me in some ways, as far as I agree. I think it does give us the option. It makes us slow down. I think it makes us, it helps us be who we are. And I'm proud of who I am. And I think we as people should be proud of who we are.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
So,
I don't think I would.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You said you don't think you would?
I don't think that I would take the pill to get rid of my CP either, because I've been like this my whole life, and to have it magically disappear would be such a shock to my system. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, this is just how my world is. I can't imagine being any other way. I don't know.
Listening to that, and the final, I got 3 more questions for you. I've actually got the one I want to ask you is, the hard part in psychology is, for me, I would say, feeling for the person, wanting to go out on that olive branch and really, when your heart hurts to hear their story, because a person's story can be so powerful. Were there moments in where you took psychology and you heard a story and you were like, oh God, I don't think I can do this, because it just, the story just hurt you and you wanted to help them?
Yeah, absolutely. As I got older and I researched psychology more, and I took all my classes and I learned so much, kids don't have kid problems anymore. They have adult
Mhm.
problems.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was a very hard thing to come to terms with. Just because I, I can't, we don't have a fact checker on here or anything, but, the suicide rate for little kids right now is scary. And
Yeah.
they're little kids. They're 9, 10, 12 years old. So that for me, when I was in school, was the scary part. I'm like, I can't deal with that kind of, not from a kid, because I know
Mm-hmm.
they understand what they're feeling, but I don't know how to walk with them through that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the hardest part for me.
How did you get past that? I mean, because that is such a true statement, and it's still true to this very day, and and probably worse because of the pandemic.
Mhm. Yeah. Um I got through it because I focused on what I could contribute, like how I knew I could make kids' lives a little easier. Like I could be
Mm-hmm.
there to listen to them. Like, my way of dealing with that was I kind of became a mentor to other kids with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that helped me to kind of, because I didn't have anybody like me when I was little. I had
Mm-hmm.
lots of support, lots of, my community was amazing. My family is amazing. My friends that I have now are amazing. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anybody just like me when I was growing up. So I I wanted to be that person for someone else. And I
Mm-hmm.
have many kids that have now grown up, and they still talk to me and they still ask me questions, and I still walk them through things that they're going through,
Mm-hmm.
disability wise or just in life. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
So, so we've got about maybe 12 minutes left in the show, and I want to ask you, what is next for Andrea? What are your goals for 2021? What's going on with you right now, that you're dealing with? What's next for you?
hmm. um, well, I want to travel some more. Once we're allowed to travel, I want to travel some more.
Okay.
I love going to the CP conferences and being part of this community and helping when I can. I love hanging out with my nieces. um, and just going to see the pandemic had me thinking that I go places 3 times a year. Like I go somewhere 3 times a year, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
only for the weekend or whatever. I'm at least I'm at least visiting friends or going somewhere. And so the pandemic and not being able to do that was a rough transition for me.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but and I still love caregiving, so um, I do that every once in a while too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All
And
right.
I work with my parents as well, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, congratulations on everything that's happened. You know, we're proud of you. I know. You just got into your new house and had to wait on that a little bit, and but everything is you've got it accessible now,
It was worth the wait.
so how do you feel being in your new house? I mean, it just how are you feeling about that?
It's pretty liberating just because it's made life so much easier. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize how um I mean, I've lived on my own now for 7 years, but I didn't realize living in the other house, dealing with steps every day, how much more tired I used to get. And now I don't have that same fatigue. So that's a big difference for me. Getting the groceries in and out of the house are a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and things like that. Like I don't get as physically tired as I used to.
Yeah, we've got a
So,
lot of people saying,
so
congratulations.
that's a pretty neat adjustment.
Yep. Shayna says congratulations. Nikki says congratulations. That is, I know that was
Thank
a
you.
big goal, big goal for you. I'm so happy that you
Yes.
finally got what you wished for, and your house is beautiful, and we're just proud of you because it's, I know you said your grandfather did most of the modifications, did all the modifications.
Pretty much between my grandparent, like my grandfather, my grandmother, my mom and dad, when they could chip in. My dad made a whole bunch of. My dad actually did my countertops, so
Wow.
that was pretty cool. And he's done a few other wood projects as well.
Awesome.
Like, yeah, when I say it was a labor of love, this house was a labor of love.
Mm.
It was definitely a labor of love.
I tell you, like I said, we're so glad that this finally happened for you, and because I know you were waiting, and you had to be patient with it, and just what a great experience for you. I'm very happy I was able to
Yeah.
have you on today, because this is, again, talking about what you go through, and just how you look at things with your life. It's an eye-opening experience. We'll definitely have you on again. What would you say your most valuable experience has been in your life thus far?
You want to? Oh wow. Probably when I took care of somebody who had Alzheimer's. I learned how to truly live in the moment when I was doing that, and I had the privilege of taking care of her for 10 years. I learned so much from doing that. I learned to live in the moment, to just appreciate everything. Like you just learn to appreciate. There's no real there's no way to, yeah, you just, so.
Yeah, Miss
Yeah.
Edwina Wilson said that's awesome. That's awesome, Andrea. I hope you will be joining us next month for the CP conference. I'm gonna tell you, that's it. And I know you talked a little bit about that earlier, how much you enjoyed that. Yeah, we definitely want to see you next month. So get that email to her so you can get up there again, and talk to us once again, because you told an awesome story last year.
All right. Yeah. Okay, I'll make sure I get on that.
No, I just think it's fantastic. What you've, a lot of the, I've known you for a long time now, and we've been, great friends. And Kim says, you rule, Andrea. Keep up the fantastic work. I think you're an awesome person. And I think the way that you connect with people is awesome. And I think that is a love inside itself that a lot of people have to take time to get used to, but you connect with people very well, and I enjoy talking with you, and we're definitely going to have you on again, because there was so much that we didn't get a chance to cover because the hour goes so fast. But if you
right?
would, how can people connect with you? What's the easiest way to connect with you if people want to talk to you?
Oh, sure. Probably Facebook.
Okay.
So it's just my Facebook page, and it's Andrea Bolinger. So it's AndreaBolinger. It's one L. So, and I'm pretty sure my profile is public, so you should be able to find me.
Okay.
And I have an email address as well.
Okay.
That people can get me at. It's Andrea Bolinger at hotmail.com.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Or on Facebook
and
Messenger as well.
Yeah, that's, and I think a lot of people use Facebook Messenger nowadays too.
Yeah.
So are you, I want to ask you this, the last question I've got, and then I'll give, my social media information as well. Do you plan to do anything else with your psychology that you've taken? Do you want to do more with that, or what are your plans with that? Because I think that is so powerful because of the avenues that you can go through with psychology itself.
Well, the problem is with psychology is I have a bachelor's degree, and if you really
Mm-hmm.
want to pursue anything with psychology, you have to have a master's. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to decide whether or not I'm going to go back to school again. Um, so that's a whole nother, but I feel like I use my psychology degree every day at work because I work with the public. I help manage, manage my parents' store. So I feel like I use psychology every day,
Mm-hmm.
just to listen to people and listen to their complaints about what they're looking for, and they just want validation. Everybody just wants validation. So I'm pretty good at the validation part of it
Well,
because I can listen to someone and actually hear them.
I agree with that. I think, but I think, just beyond that, I think sometimes people just need that listening ear, um, to 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 be maybe just a sounding board, because you can't let the things build up. And in this pandemic and the things we've got going on, I think that's one of the biggest struggles that people with disabilities or even not deal with. They hold things in and they don't talk about them, and they don't find that person that they can trust and talk to not let those things build up.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, don't be afraid to reach out to a friend or a neighbor or, anybody who you think could be struggling right now with this pandemic, because people who have never been isolated right now are isolated.
Yeah,
So it's an adjustment for everybody. And
that
it's
is
okay
that
to
is
ask for help.
that is so true. And I think that's one of the biggest statements right there that you can make. It's okay to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because the only way you're going to get through it is to ask for help and realize there's an issue. Guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to My CP Does Not Define Me today. We want to thank our special guest, Andrea, for joining us. So happy to have you. Guys, you can reach me on Facebook at DJ Carter. You can reach me on YouTube at Worth the Wait Cooking with DJ Carter. My CP Does Not Define Me, also Cheermaster Games. You can reach me on Twitter at My CP Does Not Define Me at Minion Sports. You can reach me on Instagram at My CP Does Not Define Me. You can also reach me on my new blog at my new domain name now is mycp does not define me at wix.com. So I want to say thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. It's been a great show today. We will see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I always say, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. So we will see you guys next week for My CP Does Not Define Me. Take care, everybody.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. But don't worry, you can catch us again next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on www.letgoradio.net and on Facebook and YouTube at My CP Does Not Define Me. Remember, I'm your host, D to the J with the roll away. And if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. We'll see you next week.